Joining me now is the former United States ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch. Her new book, Lessons from the Edge, comes out next week. You know a lot of people in Ukraine. What are you hearing from them? What are they telling you?
Well, it's across the board. I mean, it's disbelief, it's anguish, it's cries for help. But I'm also hearing the resolute nature of the Ukrainian people. What you are seeing, in living rooms and online every day. The Ukrainian people do not give up. I've been in touch with somebody in the Ukrainian government who's quite high up, and he's working, 7 floors down and in a bunker. He says there's no light, there's no air, there are only government people and security people. And he talks about the difference between life down there and life on the surface. But he says, we are motivated. We are going to fight for Ukraine. And on the surface, as he calls it, you can see all the people of Ukraine, ordinary citizens like you and me, who are setting about defending their country from this brutal invasion.
What do you think Vladimir Putin's end goal is here? At first, it was to extend an umbrella of protection to Russian speakers in Ukraine. We knew that wasn't true. Then it was to, replace the government with a one that once again was friendlier to Russia than to the West. But now this just looks like a campaign of destruction.
It does. It looks like a campaign of vengeance because it was not the cakewalk that he was anticipating. I do think that Putin has had an obsession with Ukraine for many years. He's made that clear in his writings and in his actions. And, he invaded Georgia in 2008. He invaded Ukraine in 2014, as you recounted. And he got away with both of those actions. And I think he thought he was going to get away with it again, that Ukraine would not be able to put up the kind of resistance that we are seeing, both on the part of the military as well as the government and the citizens of Ukraine. And I think he badly underestimated that the reaction of the international community, that we would be united in the face of what can only be called depravity.
Is there a world in which the Ukrainian people win this fight? We've been speaking to members of parliament who say they've got the drive in them to do it, but they cannot do it without more assistance from the globe. Do you see there's any chance of Ukraine prevailing?
I think here's what I know. Russia is not going to prevail. Russia may, over time, if it really doubles down, they may win the war, but they are never going to win the peace because the Ukrainian people will resist, as you are seeing them do every day right now. They will resist through a guerrilla movement. They will resist through acts of civil disobedience. They will make the price so high for a Russian occupation that it will not be sustainable. Russia's miscalculation in invading Ukraine is, a tragedy for the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian nation, but it is also a tragedy for the Russian people whose future is now being mortgaged by the blood and treasure that Russia is expending in Ukraine.
I want to ask you about this no-fly zone, whether it was a full one that the Ukrainian president is looking for or the one I just spoke to Ambassador Herbst about, a narrower one. What do you believe the likelihood of something like that happening is, and what do you think the U.S. administration should be doing?
Yeah, I think it's a very important question to ask. I think we need to ask ourselves as the international community, how do we help Ukraine? How do we support Ukraine? How do we save Ukraine without expanding the war in ways nobody wants to see? And, on the one hand, I think that, nobody wants to push Putin over the edge. But on the other hand, what does it say about us and our values? If we don't provide greater military assistance, we have the means to stop or at least mitigate some of the worst carnage. And, as your previous guest said, will we at some later point have to intervene at a time that is perhaps more difficult? I think, this question of risk is a very important one. We need to mitigate the risk, but it's also true that not taking greater action comes with a risk as well, because Putin is a bully and he only understands strength.